How old are you now? Can you share with the public how old you are now?
I'm 75 this year.
75, Mr. Horst. He looks pretty good for his age, doesn't he? In spite of the fact that he's been through hell over the past 25 years.
25 years of stress.
Yeah. This is dated 23rd of August 1999, so it's a few years ago, but it's a medical report, and there's a whole list of medical issues that resulted from the medical people have stated that Mr. Horst has been having a long-standing dispute with the Fremantle City Council regarding the construction of a building, and so features in the medical report features in the experience that Mr. Horst has had. Did you want me to read out?
That's too long. Too long.
That, and a psychiatrist wrote a report that
I went on my own volition to that.
Your own volition.
Because they threatened me. They threatened to put me in a mental institution.
Yeah, who threatened to put you in a mental institution?
It was Richard. I think it was Richard Utting.
Richard
from
Utting.
The Fremantle Council.
Richard Utting was from the Fremantle Council.
They threatened.
And then he became a journalist, didn't he?
No, he was a criminal lawyer. He then was a journalist at ABC Radio. He then was a councillor and then became the mayor of Fremantle.
And he caused you a lot of suffering and hardship,
He caused me a lot of trouble that conspired against me on ABC Radio.
Yeah, we've got the transcript for that here as well.
Yeah.
And he was representing Mr.
So instead of they putting me in a mental institution, I went to a psychiatrist myself.
Yeah, and the psychiatrist said, this is a I also confirmed that I have met with you on a number of occasions and that my examinations did not reveal any evidence of psychiatric disorder of any major kind. I have gone on to make the point to your doctor, though, that you are experiencing certain symptoms of stress, these being entirely understandable given the difficult circumstances in which you find yourself due to the 6-year building dispute. Well, it's much longer than that. I have indicated that further psychiatric treatments do not, in my opinion, have anything to offer you. Well, everyone knows my views on psychiatric treatment anyway, but the fact is, they tried to, Richard Utting, threaten to have Mr. Horst thrown in a mental institution. That's what they do. People who trying to exercise their power and control over other people, threaten them. And the only weapons they have in the end, in terms of that, regards, saying you're crazy, so I'm going to have you thrown in a mental facility, and it's totally political. It's political force and control over a citizen's life, over a human being's life. Threatening people with that, as if there's anything medical about that. It's not medical, obviously. It's political, because I could do it. I could do it to anybody out there. You see, that's why it's political, because anybody could do it. Anybody can say those sorts of things, so therefore it is political. It's got nothing to do with medicine.
I've got 2 or 3 of those. I've got another one of the psychiatrist business trying to put me in a mental institution.
Okay, this is written from Richard Utting
Miranda.
to Ray Glickman.
He was the CEO of the Fremantle Council.
There's a CEO.
Glickman. He's no longer, they're all gone.
Yeah, good.
There's a memorandum.
12th of January 1998. Guys, I have raised the issue of criminal defamation with Doug Mack. Who's that? Doug Mack. Who's that, Doug?
Oh, lawyer.
Some lawyer.
McLeod.
I will chase it up. We have taken action against the signs in his house, but it will be a long saga. I will await the letter. It may be crunch time for this gentleman. Apart from the libel on his house, he is also driving around in a car with signs Fremantle Council corrupt. This is a libel against all corrupt councils, current councillors and staff who had nothing to do with whatever De Horst is crazed about. My thoughts are that it's a mix of criminal defamation and the...
Smix.
Yeah, whatever, you can't even write properly. And the police should investigate, otherwise we may contemplate getting at least an injunction against him and cease displaying his lies. What do you guys think, Ray? He will copy a letter to send to Horst. Well, the truth is, defamation, as long as you tell the truth,
That's right.
it's not defamation.
There's no defamation.
And the fact is, they have engaged in criminal behaviour because they lied in the court, the Fremantle councillors. And this man, Richard Utting, was related
I've been told
It was related to the
he is
man in
related
the
to
property.
either party, the wife or the husband. I sold it to them.
Yeah.
No,
Thompson.
they are. I've been told that they are related to Richard Utting.
Okay, so he's taken on because there's a personal connection, really.
Now, this is another letter from one of my supporters. This gentleman is a professional consultant. He is a consultant in town planning and urban design. His name is Peter Webb and Associates in Subiaco. Dear sir, this is addressed to request for legal aid for Jan de Horst. He writes to legal aid. I understand that your review commission had sought for Mr. de Horst to provide evidence that he had a bona fide claim against the council or the city of Fremantle in the first instance. I now understand that the documents has now been provided to your office, and I'm confident that you share my view and the view of other like-minded professionals who have been provided background to this matter, who all agree that Mr. de Horst has an entirely reasonable claim against the city of Fremantle.
State of Western Australia.
He has a competent and legitimate claim against the city of Fremantle. However, those endeavours have been frustrated to what appear to be incompetent, inappropriate decisions against him in the courts. He more than most deserves access to sufficient legal aid to start the ball rolling. I and other colleagues are confident that he can win against the city of Fremantle. Peter Webb, Principal Consultant.
Well, one of the problems that we have with our judiciary, certainly in civil litigation, is that you can't get justice in our courts. Very difficult to get justice unless you're very intelligent, which you know,
Very
skills,
rich.
which I did myself, but I had to fight against the State Solicitor's Office for 18 months. And you're at the judge's mercy in a sense that not just the legislation, well, yeah, you have to have a lot of money if you don't have that skill and intelligence, but you at the judge's mercy in terms of the legislation. And my experience is that some of them have lied in documents in regards to when I fought for my brother's rights, David. And so they are able to be corrupt and just lie and not apply the legislation or just make their own decision, you know. And so there's advice there for you to go to the court to get compensation, but the fact is people can't get compensation through the court. Very difficult in civil litigation. Because the money factor, the cost factor, it takes a very long time. And also the judges, you don't know that you're going to get justice. You're going to spend $100,000 and you might not get justice if the judge decides no, they're not going to compensate you. The system we have is totally inappropriate. It doesn't work in civil litigation and it doesn't work in criminal litigation. Because you've got a very small group of people throwing people in jail. They've done to the Aboriginal people for 200 years, throwing them in jail. Families incarcerated generation after generation. And we need to have some sort of system where it's the people making decisions. You know, you come before a people's court or a group of people, a jury, they've done in the past. But even then, it's not working because citizens generally don't have access. Oh, at the district court one time, where I had to go to fight for some justice as a teacher, there was a disabled woman there. She was a disabled woman. And they were going to throw her in jail for economic reasons. Small economic reasons, and they were just going to throw her in jail. They would throw people in jail for mental health difficulties. They throw people in jail for small economic reasons. They throw people in jail for, you know, not agreeing with the judge or not handing over a document because you don't think it's right to hand over a document. And these people just have too much power. They do. They have very few people in our society, 59 politicians in the lower house, legislating all our rights away. And in the federal parliament, legislating our rights and freedoms away. And judges having way too much power because the government can drag citizens before the court and have them thrown in jail. And that's the difficulty that I have at the moment with just, in your experience, I just want to talk a little bit about this and then I'll come back to you, because what they've done to you, they're going to try and do the same thing to me as a citizen and be receiving compensation from the state of Western Australia, there's no question about that. But to stop them doing to me what they're doing, and in fact, you know, I've got a right, it's my property on Winterfold Road in Hilton, it's my property and I've got a few signs on my front fence. Well, I'm not changing my building, I'm not building another building, I'm not doing anything, just got a few signs on my fence promoting democracy and freedom, and they're trying to prosecute me over that. And there's a letter here to Mr. Horst from Julie Bishop, 2002. Thank you for your phone call to my office 27th of November 2002. I understand that you were interested in legal advice that I might have received in 1998 pertaining to signage in the City of Netherlands. While I'm not able to provide the particular advice to you, I do recall that it was based on the 1992 decision of the High Court of Australia in the Capital Television case, also known as the political free speech case. This might be the appropriate starting point for your consideration, because they tried to prosecute her as well back in that time. Is that what it's about?
Yeah, but that didn't proceed.
They didn't proceed because
She had a QC, a lawyer, barrister.
a barrister stepped in and helped her. And in relation to the issue, Fremantle Council trying to prosecute me, they've set a hearing for the 27th of June in the Magistrates Court in Fremantle. They didn't even ask me if I was available that day or anything. And there's a law firm involved. And I'm going to try and get them to stop, not help the council, otherwise I'm going to make sure that law firm goes out of business. And there's a letter here in 16th of June, particular year. Miss Malakari may well be right when she says that our constitution does not explicitly endorse our right to freedom of speech. We do need a Bill of Rights in Australia. However, she would do well to remember the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, Schedule 2, Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission Act of 1986, Article 19, subsection 2, which states, everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to seek, receive and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontiers, either orally, in writing or in print, in the form of art or through any other media of his or her choice. The ICCPR was ratified by the Australian Government December the 18th, 1972, came into force on August the 13th, 1980, and reservations to Article 19 and other articles were withdrawn on November 6, 1984. The ICCPR forms Schedule 2 of the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission Act 1986.
This is from the Sunday Times. July the 4th, 1999. Home level too high. This is Fremantle Council admitting that the building is illegally high. Fremantle City Council admits a home at the centre of a 10-year strata title dispute is too high and will decide tomorrow if it should be demolished. For the past decade, Beaconsfield resident Jan Horst has complained that the home built in his backyard is illegally high. Now the City of Fremantle Urban Management Director, Jeff Broad, agrees. He has told the council that the floor level of the strata home is between 120 millimetres to 650 mil too high. Well, the only one is right is 650 mil. He said the council could allow the discrepancy or make an order for it to be rectified, which would require the home to be demolished.
But you don't think, is that what you want?
That's what I wanted. But the council done.
You want that house to be demolished?
Now, yes, but the council then told the builder to ask for revised planning approval.
Yeah.
Now, the only person that can ask for revised planning approval, retrospective planning approval, is Jan de Horst, because the original planning approval is in my name.
Yeah.
And the only person that can change it is Jan de Horst. And the council gave the builder retrospective planning approval to an illegal building.
Yeah.
and they had no authority to do this.
Yeah,
The only person who could do this was me. Now, this is another interesting letter from the Sunday Times, May the 23rd, 2004. This is to do with state government. Council unfair in Strata feud. State government committee. We gave evidence at Parliament House, myself and my colleagues, my supporters. State government committee has urged the city of Fremantle to resolve a 16-year dispute with Beaconsfield resident Jan de Horst. Public Administration and Finance Standing Committee Chairman Barry House said the council had acted unfairly by using its full resources to defend its handling of a bungled strata development. Mr. de Horst has been fighting to prove Fremantle Council wrongly, allowing a home on his subdivided Moor and Street property to be built above the designated maximum height by 640 mil because of the illegal sand fill. Mr. House said the Upper House Committee, which included representatives of all sides of politics, agreed the dispute had dragged on too long and wanted the council to act quickly to end it. That was in 2004. He said the council reluctance to settle the case was probably because it would cost money. We all agreed it was unfair of the government and its various agencies and organisations to use all their powers and resources against the individual, he said.
Yeah, that's the corrupt bit.
In our hearings, we all generally came to the conclusion Mr. de Horst is probably right. Fremantle Council has told Mr. de Horst to take his $5 million compensation claim to its insurers. The insurance were not interested. They reckon I passed the time limit. Now, I've got news for the insurers. Where there's section 27 of the Act states where there is fraud involved, no time shall run. And we're now at 2012. That is 8 years ago. Still no compensation.
I think it's really important, the point that's made in that article is that a whole lot of people in the government have done this to you.
Oh yes.
One
Collusion.
citizen.
Collusion.
And they are going to try and do the same thing to me over my sign. So you know, this inquiry the Parliament had, I'm asking you to learn from that and don't let the government do this to me for promoting democracy and freedom. But the fact is, it is totally criminal to do this to an individual citizen. These people have so much power already.
Yeah, but there's one law.
The politicians, the councils, the judges, so much power already, and the power that they enforced on you, jailing you for your rights in your own property. You know, how criminal is that to do that to a citizen? This is how they treat their own citizens in Australia. It is true. It is absolutely true. It's disgusting.
I am a great embarrassment to the system. Now here we got another letter from
They should be embarrassed. That's what they.
This is another letter from the Fremantle Council, Jeff Broad, who was in charge of the planning department. The date is May the 18th, 2002. This is Mr. Jeff Broad from the planning department. We are not up to scratch, council planning boss. We're not up to scratch. And that's
well, the thing is, the councils, what they're doing, not just in Fremantle but other places, they do what they want in the city of Fremantle, approving 5 multi-storey, 5-storey dwellings on 17 city sites, despite the public not approving and saying we don't want you to allow this to go ahead. And then oppressing and harassing and, cruelty against citizens in their own homes. That's the hypocrisy of it. Why is this allowed? It's like communism. It's like communism, don't you think?
Exactly.
It's like communism. To do this to the individual, to do this to an individual citizen.
In desperation, I went to see the police, Fremantle Police. And this letter here is the 10th of February 2005 by Detective Sergeant 7064 Trevor Frank Troy. He wrote to me, following our conversation on the 9th of February 2005, I formally advise that I have completed my investigation into your complaints of perjury, fraud, corruption, and attempt to obstruct and pervert the course of justice, as levelled against those that gave evidence in the Perth District Court 7501 of 1989, as well as officers of the Fremantle City Council. The findings and recommendations of my investigations have been forwarded to the officer in charge of the Fremantle detectives for his consideration and direction before forwarding to the Department of Prosecution, so a decision might be made as to whether sufficient evidence exists for them to try charges. It is my opinion that a prima facie case exists against the builder and purchasers of your land and against 3 officers employed by the Fremantle City Council between 1989 and 1996 and the present day, because the report contains information that could be subject to legal privilege, and because its release could prejudice the case. I am not in a position to elaborate further at this point in time. If you require a copy of the report, you will need to apply for it through Police Service Office for the Freedom of Information, Trevor Frank Troy, Detective Sergeant, Fremantle Police. I did apply for the report. I had to pay $30. I received the report, and every page, all the names were blackened out. You could not make sense of the report.
So the report had the names blackened out. You paid for the report.
And I paid for it.
And they had the names blackened
And,
out. So
and the Fremantle Council
there's a police report and there's a parliamentary inquiry. Fremantle Detectives Inquiry report about this whole situation. Detective Sergeant Frank Troy, Trevor Frank Troy, thank you Mr. Troy for writing this report. And the interesting thing is this detective wrote a very good report, but when the copy was given to you,
prima facie report.
where did you get from the police?
Freedom of Information. I had to pay $30 to get it, and it's all blackened out.
And they blacked out all the names of the people involved in doing this to him. You see, they blacked out the names. Look at that. All his supporters and all the judges and all the lawyers and everything. So the police wrote a report, but they blacked out all the names. And who else has got a copy of this report?
Everybody.
Fremantle
Council, everybody.
Everyone. Fremantle Council, the DPP.
But they got a clean copy.
Yeah, of course they did. So they get a copy, with all the names in it. But Mr. Horst doesn't get the names. You know.
They have a clear copy.
Yeah. So,
I don't.
So the copy that you got was from the council.
No, it's from the police.
From the police. So the police, that's the police perverting the course of justice as well. And you know what?
The council promised to give me a copy.
Yeah.
But the copy they would have given me then would have been, what do you call it? A clear copy. And they didn't want to give it to me. So then the police gave it to me, and all the names were blackened out.
Why did the police do a report on an investigation and then black out the names? That's counterproductive to your work. That's actually perverting the course of justice. And under the criminal code, sections in the criminal code, a 7-year jail term for perverting the course of justice. To cause harm to another person, whether pecuniary or not. So whether it's to do with money or not is not relevant. If you actively, as a government official, and I don't, you know, it's the politicians and the judges that are at fault really, and the police are just kind of, sort of, you should have given that report without blacking out those names, because he paid for the report. And it's the names of the people that we need to know, because they're the ones that are involved. And under the criminal code, you know, government officials lying reports and engaging in corruption or engaging in activities to cause harm and detriment to people is a criminal offence, and whether it's to do with money or not. 7 years in jail, that's what it is. And they get away with it all the time.
Around 2008, I began mediation with the Fremantle Council regarding compensation and public apology. There were 2 investigators involved, mediators involved, and the result from the mediation was that the council were going to make available so-called compensation, and the amount was $250,000.
Yeah.
That money was never going to be paid to me. It was going to be used to give myself and the other party on my land a green title. The green title I asked for originally in 1987, and the council refused. So now they were going to pay for 2 green titles and painting of my house and a public apology in the media. No compensation was going to be paid to me. Now this is a...
But you already spent $300,000.
Yes, I rejected the offer because there was no compensation. So the only thing that I got out of the mediation was a draft statement of apology. And I'll read it. City of Fremantle acknowledges that the dispute between Mr. Horst and the City of Fremantle originated in 1989. I think that's wrong, it was 87. From an application for the development of Mr. Horst, which sought to subdivide his property to create 2 lots. It is acknowledged that the objective sought by Mr. Horst was the protection of his ocean view from the existing house. And to achieve this, Mr. Horst sought to apply a building height restriction on any building on the vacant lot. Mr. Horst was unsuccessful in achieving this objective to the extent that he wanted, and as a result took a number of actions in protest. The City of Fremantle recognises that all this struggle has taken on Mr. Horst due to his sense of personal loss. The city again acknowledges that its procedures and practices in dealing with the planning application and building licence in this instant had some major flaws, due in part to the uncertainty with the new strata laws implemented at the time. The city has taken action to correct those flaws and to ensure that they do not occur again. The city regrets those flaws and the effect that has had on Mr. Horst, and apologises to Mr. Horst for them. In making this apology, the City of Fremantle expresses its satisfaction. The City of Fremantle expresses its satisfaction in having arrived at an agreement with Mr. Horst in relation to the matters of their differences. The apology is made with the recognition of the past and in the spirit of reconciliation in the future. My response to this draft apology is, regarding the above draft statement, of apology, I would like to point out that despite this ongoing dispute since '87 and the past 2 years of an attempt at mediation, there has been no agreement, there has been no public apology, and there has been no compensation.
And in addition,
But
it's not just about the Fremantle Council, this is about the entire state because it involves judges.
But during this mediation,
they threw you in jail for fighting for your property rights.
During this mediation, I was taken to court 25 times for having so-called illegal signage on my property.
Yeah, the court,
which were heritage listed, on my heritage documents as having the political signage are of significance to the heritage of the building.
Yeah.
Statement.
They basically, the council, and they're trying to do it to me now in regards to my signs on my front fence, you know, I'm promoting democracy and freedom. Yes, I'm building a political party. I have a right to do that. But 25 times the Fremantle Council drags Mr. Horst before a court.
During mediation.
I would say that is enormous cruelty. Cruelty that you're engaging against a citizen. That's communism at its worst. You know, Labor politicians, and I'm asking the voters of the Willagee electorate and other electorates in the Fremantle federal electorate, vote independence. Vote independence in the state election because Labor is about communism, and now they've got a social alliance, Sam Wright, councillor. That's communism. They will legislate and legislate and legislate every single one of your rights and freedoms away, and they will punish you for things that your rights in your own property. And that's what Labor politicians do. Fremantle Council is full of Labor-minded, that mayor, well, he's just a communist. Labor-minded, nasty people who just want to control their citizens and punish them.
Yeah, but this is the Liberal Party that's done all this to me.
Yeah, but the Fremantle Council, this area, it's got Labor politicians. Peter Tinley is living in a Homes West house.
They've got all
Do
the
you know that?
green politicians, sorry?
Peter Tinley is living in a Homes West house.
Yes, I read it.
And he's got $150,000 plus the personal entitlements and everything that he's getting. He's ripping off the taxpayer. Yeah. And he's should be voted out, you know. But they've been voting Labor. Vote independence.
Anyway,
people in the parliament.
This is quite an important letter which I'm going to read out next. I had my appeal in the Supreme Court. There were 3 judges. I think from memory it was Murray, White and David Malcolm. Now, David Malcolm sided with me on my appeal. The other 2 judges went against him.
So say that again. Who sided with you?
David Malcolm.
In which court?
He was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
In the Supreme Court.
On my appeal, he sided with me.
Yeah.
I've got the transcript to prove it.
Yeah.
He was on my side because prior to being a Supreme Court judge, previously he was the president of the Local Government Appeal Tribunal. He knew all about strata plans, he knew all about strata heights, etc., etc. Now, he then retired and is now Professor of Law at Notre Dame University.
Okay.
This letter is from Notre Dame University. This was written to me, sent to me, on the 4th of June 2008. Now, I went to see the professor. I made an appointment with David Malcolm, Professor of Notre Dame Law there, and I said, Professor, do you remember my case? He said, yes. I said, you made a statement in court that the new house on my property should have been built within the cubic space, within the strata height restriction of the strata plan. I said, do you still stand by that statement? He said, yes, Mr. Horst. I said, Professor, I have news for you. Your statement was deleted from the court transcript. I then asked the professor, I mentioned to him that the strata plan came under the Strata Titles Act and was statute law of Parliament. The contract came under common law. I said, Professor, which one has right over the other? He said statute law overrides common law. So in other words, my strata plan, my height restriction, my statute law should have prevailed.
That's right.
Over anything else in my dispute. The government should have protected me with the strata plan under the Strata Titles Act under statute law of Parliament.
And it didn't.
No.
And who were the other judges involved?
I'm sorry?
Who were the other two judges that went against you?
The ones who went against me was, I think it was Murray and White. Justice Murray and White, not those, they were different ones.
In the Supreme Court.
Anyway, I just read the letter from Professor David Malcolm, 2008, 4th of June 2008. Dear Mr. Horst, regarding Conway, the builder, Islet and officers of the City of Fremantle, thank you for forwarding to me copies of correspondence. As a retired judge, I am disqualified from giving legal advice or assistance. I note the letter from Detective Sergeant Troy, dated the 5th of July 2004, and from my reading of the correspondence, there does appear that you are a victim of an injustice for which I can only express my great regret, and I wish you well in your endeavour to obtain justice. Yours sincerely, Professor David Malcolm. Now, Professor David Malcolm was on my case in the Supreme Court.
Okay, the Honourable David K. Malcolm, Professor of Law, Notre Dame University.
Notre Dame University.
Now what I have to say, and that's dated the 4th of June 2008, and what I'm going to have to do, Mr. Horst, can I just explain something? I'm going to have to write to Professor David Malcolm myself, Notre Dame University. I did a Master of Education Leadership Management at Notre Dame University in Fremantle.
Yeah, but he won't give you advice or assistance.
No, I'm not asking for advice. I want just to tell them what the Fremantle Council is trying to do to me. Prosecute me of having signs on my front fence on Winterfold Road in Hilton. Promoting democracy and freedom, the West Australian Party, because I'm building a political party. And I have a right to do that as a citizen. I have got property rights, and I've got a High Court ruling 1992 in the Capital Television case known as the Political Free Speech case, and a letter from Julie Bishop dated 29th of November 2002 proving that that's a true case. In regards to freedom of speech, in addition to the Schedule 2 of the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission Act 1986, Article 19, subsection 2 states everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to seek, receive and impart information and ideas of all kinds of regardless of frontiers, either orally, in writing or in print in the form of art or through any other media of his choice. And the problem that we have is our magistrates and judges don't necessarily uphold the legislation and the ruling, and they make us suffer. They make Mr. De Horst suffer as a citizen, and they'll probably try and make me suffer as well. So we have a problem here with our judges who are making citizens suffering, and not necessarily. I have no guarantee at all that this magistrate in the Magistrates Court in Fremantle on the 27th of June is going to even uphold this legislation. There's no guarantee of that, because 9 times out of 10 this action's been done by the Council of Fremantle, and 9 times out of 10 the magistrates and the judges side with the government against the citizen. They did it to Mr. De Horst 25 times, siding with another government organisation, a council, which is not even allowed under our constitution. It's not even allowed under the Australian Commonwealth Constitution. With a letter from Robert McClellan, 8th of July 2010, the Federal Attorney General of Australia, stating the Constitution does not currently recognise local government. And the 1988 four proposals to amend the Constitution were put to voters in accordance with Section 128 of the Constitution referendum. One of those proposals sought to give constitutional recognition to local government, but the proposal was not carried. So what they do is government authorities, councils, or whatever, any government department, summons a citizen to court and just crucifies them. And that's what the Fremantle Council did to Mr. Horst, and they're trying to do it to me now for promoting democracy and freedom. And they don't even exist under the Constitution. But those magistrates and judges, they don't care about that. They just make you suffer.
This is another document I have here, which I state all my... those are the complaints I have made to police and Corruption and Crime Commission, DPP, etc., etc. This is an official complaint regarding misconduct, official corruption.